James.
We wake up dazed in a small, dark, and gritty room after our fight with the monstrous fleshlip. Looking around, we see that we're transferred back to the horrifying Otherworld. If you haven't seen the first part to this video yet, I do highly recommend that you watch that before watching this video, as it'll provide a little bit more context to what you're about to watch. Although, you don't really need to watch it. I tried to make this as standalone as possible, but I mean, just do whatever you want, man. I'm not your dad. We walk out into a larger room. All the furniture seems to be covered in sheets. Some of the walls are barely holding on, and some are only impassable because of the grates blocking the holes in those walls. There's a wheelchair in the middle of the room where we find another evaluation card of a patient, 3141. The patient suffers from a hyperfocus with a diagnosis that they can be fixed and a recommendation to stop at nothing. This evaluation card is likely talking about the director of Brookhaven Hospital. The director was trying to find a cure for 3 of his patients who had some crazy and seemingly unfixable symptoms that they were dealing with. Moving on, we take the elevator up to the 2nd floor and step out into a large hall. Lifting a cloth on a small pedestal, we find a mysterious box covered in chains with 3 separate locks on it. Each chain leads down a different hallway, which is likely where we'll find the solutions we need to open the box. Immediately as we enter this place, I'm just overwhelmed with how insane this place looks. The Otherworld of Silent Hill just never fails to impress me with its grotesque and horrifying atmosphere, which is quite contrasting to how beautiful the hospital is when we first enter it. What with the beautiful hallways and these flapping paper things, which I now learned are called borders, by the way. Following the chain of the numerical cylinder lock, we walk through room L1 again. The room covered in sheets that was occupied by patient 130. Patient 130 was someone who was dealing with intense visual hallucinations and anxiety, which I thought represented Angela Orozco. We pass by a set of eerily quiet rooms and we find a bedsheet fort with a diary page inside, which will give us our first clue to the code we need for the cylinder lock. Cylinder lock. Jesus, that is difficult to say. Cylinder lock. There's also 6 pills in the sink next to that fort. A peephole looking towards a blinking light that blinks twice, and a clock on the wall which, when rotated to a specific hour, makes a loud noise and summons enemies towards you. Almost like how you'd fear an abuser coming home at a certain hour. All these things combined give us the combination that we need to unlock the first cylinder lock. 1 year, 6 pills, 2 o'clock, and a light blinking 2 times. 1622. Following the next chain for the electronic pin pad, and dealing with a few enemies along the way, we're back inside the director's office. There's a cassette player on a small table, in the same place where it was in the overworld, but playing it just gives a bunch of random static and illegible gibberish. There's also a number 3 painted in blood on that table, which might refer back to the 3 patients the director was so obsessive about. Continuing on and climbing up the ladder, we find an ECT device, an electroconvulsive therapy machine. This is also the same room where we fought the fleshlip originally. ECT devices were used in the 1930s, later becoming more widely used in the 1940s and 50s. Eventually though, the use of these machines kind of declined due to safety concerns and public negative reception. The ECT device doesn't seem to be working though, and it needs to be powered back up. Now, next to the ECT device, there's a note from the staff members about patient 50. Patient 50 had a lot of affiliations with water and suffered from audio and visual hallucinations and aggressive outbursts. I suggested that patient 50 represented James Sunderland. Patient 50 had snuck into the room and somehow knew how to turn the machine on, even though he wasn't scheduled for an ECT that day. If you flip the paper around, you can actually see a note from the director saying, "So close, it will happen. It has to." I believe this is our first little connection between the director and James Sunderland, with patient 50 knowing how to turn the machine on despite the fact that he shouldn't. It's a little nod towards him being the director, or at least kinda closely representing him, since the director of all people would know how such a machine works. And even on the back of the page that we find, there's a note from the director written in an eerily manic way. We follow a cable over to a tiny generator which powers up the ECT device. In a small bathroom next to the generator, we find another note written by the director. "I won't rest until they are solved. I won't rest. I can't rest. Don't know how anymore." The director was getting so obsessive at this point. He's just chasing a mystery that just seems impossible to solve, so much so that he's driving himself mad since there seems to be no end in sight, no matter how hard he tries. Jesus Christ, if you see me getting progressively sweatier throughout this video. I'm filming in an attic. It is hot as balls up here. Moving back over to the ECT device, we turn it on to reveal the code we needed for the electronic pin pad. I also just want to point out how aggressive that shock was. Like, this machine is basically reminiscent of an electric chair, especially with how it's set up in this room, with like the ceiling light pointing directly at it and these wires all being strung up like a sort of spider's web, almost like you're trapped in that machine with no way out other than death, almost like you're fly caught in a spider's web. We punch in the code we found in the pin pad and follow the next chain, where we immediately find this bathtub overflowing with this disgustingly green water, likely a nod to patient 90. Now, patient 90 suffered from an eating disorder and had a lot of excretion of this type of mold, the one who I thought represented Eddie Dombrowski. Now, in the overworld, upon entering the treatment room, which is the same room that we're in right now, you can actually find 3 of these bathtubs, 2 of which are filled with this disgusting water, just like that we're seeing now. Moving along, we fucking mannequin. Moving along, we move up to the first floor and we find this doll sitting in a chair in this like almost cowardly or like bracing position with its hands covering his face. And there's this little mallet right next to it. Taking a ladder down to the kitchen area, we find this little needle tool that is called an orbitoclast. With the mallet, that is actually a set of lobotomy tools. Using the lobotomy tools, we crack open the left eye of the doll that we found, and we find this lapis eye key. And we can't really see the eye part because James's fat diglet thumb is blocking it, but this could be a callback to the eyes we see in the pool area of the Overworld Hospital, and in room C1, where patient 50, the one who represented James Sunderland, resided. Now, I got a comment on my last video mentioning these eyes and how they're connected to the cult in Silent Hill, because the eyes are actually a calling card used by said cult. And we actually see this eye quite a lot in other games, such as in the Halo of the Sun crest, on the placard named Watchfulness in Silent Hill 4, and on the Eye of the Night tarot card in Silent Hill 3. So this key could definitely be a connection to the Silent Hill cult. A very cool and very strong theory that I only actually knew about because of this guy, Infinite Quandary, so thank you. Now, I already mentioned that the ECT devices that we see are basically obsolete since the 1950s. They do still see some minor usage today, but they've basically been replaced by more modern substitutes. Now, lobotomies are actually in that same vein. They were used as treatments against a variety of mental health issues. Although lobotomies were also subject to controversy thanks to its long list of side effects, patients suffered from reduced mental function to the point that they were completely unaware of their surroundings. But that's not even the worst. Patients could also suffer from like bleeding or swelling in their brain, epilepsy, dementia, alterations in their personality, and in worst cases, even death, which isn't completely weird when you're ramming a fucking giant needle up in someone's frontal lobe. Great stuff, guys. Now, Silent Hill 2 has been dated to be taking place around the 1990s or the 1980s. For example, the trucks and the cars we see in-game are all 70s and 80s models. So you see why it would be a problem if Brookhaven Hospital was still using the devices like ECTs, lobotomy tools in the 90s and 80s when they were basically long obsolete since the 60s. Any given person nowadays can probably see that these things are basically torture. It's entirely possible that the director, in his maniacal state, dragged out these old tools just to try and see if anything at all could fix his 3 patients. Even the pills we found earlier on might be some form of abuse, since pills back then were filled with like lead, arsenic, mercury, opium, that kind of stuff. It's clear that at a certain point the director just straight up started torturing his patients, even if he thought he was trying to help them. After going through the entire hospital and finding everything we needed for the box, we open up the box and reveal nothing. Absolutely nothing. You're chasing something that's impossible to solve. You do everything you can to find what you need, trying to unravel the mysteries of a broken mind, and you're just left with nothing. James had been acting in the shoes of the director. After seeing the awesome nothing in the box, a curtain falls and reveals the Lady of the Door. There's a poem on the wall that reads, "She's an angel no one knows. Only I can see the Lady of the Door. They cannot walk along her bridge of thread. They fall from the rate of their crimes. Like bloated and ugly corpses, their sins, she devours them. Sin and sinners alike, she saves me. She is an angel." The poem refers to the angel on the door as a she, indicating that the angel is symbolic of Mary, which would also explain other parts of the poem. No one can walk along her bridge, and that only they can see her, which could be referring to the relationship that James and Mary shared. Now, the lady needs 2 rings and the door will open, just like how you need 2 rings in marriage. We do, however, get an elevator button that allows us to go into the basement. After some walking through the grimy Otherworld basement, we find a white pedestal with the first of the 2 rings we need on top of it. A copper ring with a spider engraved on it. Now it's interesting that the ring is specifically made of copper, since copper is often called the love metal, often representing love and beauty and emotional openness. After picking the ring up from its white pedestal, Maria suddenly pops out of nowhere, who we haven't seen since we left her on the piss mattress in the Overworld Hospital. James hopefully yells Mary when she arrives, and only to be disappointed when he sees it's Maria.
Mary! Oh. Maria, I thought... Sorry. Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Manipulatively, Jesus fucking Christ. Maria, almost manipulatively, responds with how James is supposed to be there for her and protect her.
What do you mean, anyway? I was almost killed back there. I have never been so scared in my whole life. All you care about is that dead wife of yours. You couldn't care less about me, could you?
No, I just...
Then stay with me. Don't leave me alone again. You're supposed to take care of me.
Which just goes to show how harsh the town of Silent Hill can be, or in a way, James to himself. James and Maria walk under this hallway where it's somehow raining, and Maria makes a comment about how romantic it is here, just planting more seeds in James's mind to be sympathetic and empathic towards Maria.
What do you know? A stroll in the rain. How romantic.
We continue on and find a tipped-over fridge, which we try to open by ourselves, but we struggle to open it. Maria ends up helping to open it up. Maria spots a skull-adorned lead ring.
Not very cute, is it?
And hands it to James. The lead ring also has some symbolism, since lead is a very heavy element. It could represent how marriage can hold a person down, just like how James feels stuck with a sick Mary and how he feels suffocated in his relationship. Now, of course, marriage is only possible with 2 people, unless you're in some sort of polyamorous relationship. That's an entirely different conversation. But that could be why Maria has to help James open the fridge, since he wasn't able to get it open on his own. A little further ahead, we find another note written by the director, which reads, "The patients will become the diagnosis scheduled for them when they'll make recovery, as my aim is always for the entire personnel, especially when their symptoms will become receding with effective treatment." Yeah, it's gibberish. It doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't really make any sense, but I think that's kind of the point. At this stage, the director is just losing himself completely, just going deeper and deeper down a rabbit hole and just making himself more and more insane with no end in sight. You get back to the lady at the door and put the rings on her hands. Now, I thought there was going to be some puzzle and there was going to be like a connection between which ring you put on the left hand, because the left hand is usually the hand that bears the wedding ring. But upon testing it twice, it just opens either way, so it doesn't really matter. Once we walk through the door, Maria suddenly gets worried and says she has a bad feeling.
What's wrong? I thought you wanted to get out of here.
I know. It's just... something doesn't feel right.
James convinces her to keep going and we carry on through. We find a final note from the director saying, "It is done. Sick no more." Could be in reference to us finally leaving the hospital as James, just like how the director might have finally found a solution for his patients. Whatever that might be, I could only speculate. It's probably death. They're probably fucking dead. We continue down the hall and hear an all too familiar scraping noise headed in our direction. Pyramid Head. We make a run for it and find an elevator.
There! An elevator!
Maria falls to the ground like every fucking horror movie character ever.
Come on, hurry!
She gets up and tries to enter the elevator, but... Pyramid Head stabs her through the chest, and James is alone again. This was the way out, and another clue towards what truly happened with James and Mary. Pyramid Head isn't an antagonist. He's not the villain in this story. But if he isn't an antagonist, that means Maria is not a helpful ally. For every time Pyramid Head seems to get in our way, get in James's way, it's actually him leading him forward to confronting his own guilt and pain. And every time Maria does or says something, it's only an effort to redirect James or manipulate him to make him stay with her in Silent Hill. It's why she's acting so lovingly. It's why she tries to form this empathic and romantic bond with James. It's all a ruse. Although Maria, just like everything else in Silent Hill, is just a manifestation of James's mind. So Maria is just a way for James to push himself away from confronting his inner demons. Also, why the hell do we run so goddamn slow? Like fucking Pyramid Head is chasing us and we're just going for a little jog. We enter the hospital's main lobby and find a little book with some writing on it that reads, "The potential for this illness exists in all people, and under the right circumstances, any man or woman would be driven, like him, to the other side." The other side perhaps may not be the best way to phrase it. After all, there is no wall between here and there. It lies on the borders where reality and unreality intersect. It is a place both close and distant. Some say it isn't even an illness. I cannot agree with them. I'm a doctor, not a philosopher or even a psychiatrist, unlike the director. But sometimes I have to ask myself this question. It's true that to us, his imaginings are nothing but the inventions of a busy mind, but to him there's simply no other reality. Furthermore, he's happy there. So why, I ask myself, why in the name of healing him must we drag him painfully into the world of our own reality? Now, I personally think this other side could refer to two things. One is obviously the other world. Maybe the director got in and he's ranting and raving about it to his coworkers. Or maybe he's just hallucinating everything. Maybe he's gone so insane and he's just happy in that hallucinogenic and maniacal state. So why would they drag him back to reality if he's so happy with where he is? The director did go insane. He turned into a patient himself. Is he patient 50? Maybe. Is he connected to James? I think there's evidence to support that claim. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below, because I do personally think there are some good connections between the director and James, but I do see some people believing the contrary. I'd love to discuss this with you guys, so just tell me. Upon grabbing the key on the booklet, we see Laura running away once more. We open up the front doors of the hospital, and we're trying to chase after Laura all over again. Anyway, that was it. So I'm actually just blown away with the amazing response and the feedback that I've been getting on my first video. You guys are great. Thank you so much. It's awesome. If you haven't done so yet, do me a favor and press that little subscribe button, maybe the like button, leave a comment. It helps me out a lot, and I appreciate every single one of you that do any of these things. Yeah, anyways, just drink water, make sure to eat good food, and just take care of yourself, man. Yeah, bye-bye. See you in the next one.